Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. We're tackling some big questions today. What really unites us humans underneath all the differences? And, maybe more importantly, what kind of system, if any, could actually help all people, everywhere, truly thrive? We're going to explore a concept presented as a universal and timeless way of life. Our guide for this is Maulana Syed Abul Maududi, specifically excerpts from his work, Islam, the Universal and Timeless Way of Life, which is part of a larger series called Deen-e-Haq, the True Religion. So our mission, really, is to dig into Maududi's reasoning. Why does he argue that a single divinely revealed system isn't just a nice idea, but actually essential for humanity? We'll look at how he claims it cuts across all the usual boundaries and offers, well, a complete way of living, not just, rituals or beliefs. Okay, let's unpack this. Maududi starts with something we all see, right? Divisions. He talks about the geographical and racial division of life. And he comes out pretty strong, saying it's just absurd to divide human life into isolated compartments, like by country or ethnicity or nation.
Yeah, it's interesting how he frames it. He basically says, look, we focus on mountains, borders, race, culture. But these things, he argues, are just surface-level differences. The really crucial insight he puts forward is that underneath all that, the core essence of humanity remains unified. We're fundamentally the same. And he really pushes this point. The idea that every race or region should have its own religion or system of life, he calls that a shallow misunderstanding. He even uses this analogy, which is quite stark, actually. He says if you follow that logic, well, even two kids from the same parents would need their own separate religion.
Wow. Yeah. That really highlights the absurdity he sees in it.
It does. It's meant to show that if our core is shared, the path should be too.
And he builds on that, right? Pointing out all the things we undeniably share, like same biology, same basic human nature, instincts, psychological needs. We even face the same kinds of moral challenges, and we all operate under the same physical laws of the universe. That's universal.
Exactly. So his argument follows. If all that stuff is universal, then the principles we need to live well, to thrive, those must be universal too. And this is where he presents Islam as that universal system. A divine guide, he argues, not tied to a specific race or place, but meant for absolutely everyone.
Okay, that makes sense as a line of reasoning. But then he tackles another big division, time. This idea of temporal division of life. The common thought that what worked or was true back then doesn't necessarily apply now because society changes so much. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Right, and he argues this idea actually contradicts the very principles of human development, history, and natural law. He poses a pretty deep question, doesn't he? If time just cancels out truth, then what value do human experiences and lessons from the past hold? Like, why even study history or ethics if everything just becomes irrelevant? It sort of undermines the whole idea of learning from the past.
That's a fair point. If nothing holds true, what's the foundation?
Precisely. And his counter is that while, circumstances change, technology advances, all that, he strongly asserts that human nature remains constant. Our basic desires, our emotions, how our minds work, our relationships, the ethical dilemmas we face. He argues these haven't fundamentally changed over centuries.
So the core struggles, the core needs, they persist.
That's the idea. The packaging might change, but the human inside is recognizably the same.
So the implication then, as Maududi lays it out, is that we don't need a new religion for every age, but rather a timeless and unchanging divine system, something that can guide people reliably through all these changing situations. And again, he identifies Islam as that system. He describes it as not seasonal, temporary, or regional, but permanent, universal, and divinely revealed.
Okay, so pulling back to the bigger picture, if we set aside these divisions of geography, race, and time, what kind of system does humanity actually need, according to Maududi? Well, he looks at history, and he points out that humans have, repeatedly tried to create their own systems of life, systems based on race, or nationalism, or economics, or just culture. But his assessment is pretty blunt. These man-made ideologies have failed to provide lasting peace, justice, or unity. He sees them as eventually collapsing, always falling short.
So there's a pattern of failure in purely human attempts.
That's what he suggests, yeah. An inherent limitation, maybe. Because they often serve one group or one time, but not all. And so his conclusion is that what humanity really needs is something different. A divinely guided, stable, universal system. Something that doesn't just fall apart when politics shift or society changes trends. A system that works for everyone, everywhere, always. Because its source is, beyond human limitations.
Which leads us right to, I suppose, the ultimate question he grapples with. Can humans actually create this kind of perfect, timeless system themselves?
And his answer, laid out in the source, is a very clear no. He points out, and it's hard to argue with this observation, that even now, no political or philosophical system claims to solve all of humanity's core problems. Certainly none have achieved that universal lasting peace and justice.
Okay, so why not? What are the limitations he sees?
Well, he breaks it down. Some systems are built around race or class, so they inherently divide people. Others are limited by geography or culture, so they just aren't applicable universally. And like we talked about with time, some may work for one era but fail in the next. They don't capture that constant element of human nature. His point is that none of these man-made approaches provide the comprehensive, timeless, and holistic guidance that Islam offers, which he presents as being designed by the Creator for the creation.
So it really drills down to this fundamental question, doesn't it? Can our own human intellect, brilliant as it can be, actually produce a perfect moral and spiritual blueprint, one that works for all people, for all time?
Exactly. And Maududi's answer consistently through the work we've looked at is no. It can't. That is why, he concludes, we need revelation. That is why we need the divine. That is why we need Islam. It's positioned as the necessary answer to human limitations.
Wow. Okay, that's certainly a comprehensive argument we've explored today, really digging into Maududi's perspective from this text. The consistent thread seems to be this case for a divinely guided system presented as the only truly universal, truly timeless answer to what humans need, cutting across all those divisions we tend to create for ourselves.
Yeah, it definitely leaves you thinking. If Maududi's premise holds that human nature is fundamentally constant and that our own attempts at creating universal systems do consistently fall short, well, it really makes you consider his question. Where should we look for guidance that truly endures? Guidance that offers genuine well-being for everyone, no matter who they are or where or when they live. It's certainly something to ponder.